Hi, you know me pretty well already. So I will say, I'll tell you a little bit more about the transition into a check writing role in venture. When I was at the venture incubator that I was at, we were, as I mentioned, we were building startups with big companies who wanted to build the company that would otherwise have put them out of business, right? And so it's a very safe startup way to build startups. So I'm still getting a salary, but still acting as a startup founder. And we were I'm in rooms, there's my rooms surrounded by men, right? Because those places, you take the bro culture of consulting and you mash it against the bro culture of venture and startup, and it's heavy bro culture. And so we're building startups and doing all these things, and there's not enough women in any of these rooms. And we're hiring in the teams for the startups that we're building, and we're not getting enough women applying for these roles, CEO, CTO, the team, the engineering team. And I keep wondering why the women are not applying, because there are women in the world who could be on these startup teams. And in parallel, I'm spending my evenings going to like meetups and things that are in the startup ecosystem around LA. And I'm meeting a lot of female startup founders. And I'm asking them, like, look, I build startups for a living. Why don't you apply to the roles over here? Because we're funded, right? I have capital over here as well. And over again, they were like, no, I don't really want to. I want to build my company, and I don't really want to do that. I want to do this over here. And they're struggling for funding, right? To your point, they're trying to raise capital, and but they're doing it because it's theirs. And so I was like, okay. So I start doing a lot of advising with these female founders outside of my day job. So I'm advising, I'm doing all kinds of other support because I know how to build businesses. I've done a lot of it. I can look at financials. I can help them build business plans. So my day job is building startups with a lot of men, and then my extracurricular time is building startups with a lot of women. I did this for like 3 years. And then I had this morning, I woke up in this weird wake-up call where I was like, oh my goodness, this is not gonna work because the system that these women are up against is my day job, right? The men are surrounded by ecosystem. The men are surrounded by resources. It's literally what I'm doing all day. And I'm spending my extracurricular time helping the women find resources, find ecosystem, find money. And like this doesn't, like it's like cognitive dissonance that I couldn't handle anymore. And so I left my partner job at the consulting firm, and I completely shifted all of my energy. I said, I think I'm gonna have to launch a fund. I feel like I have to like shift how I do it and start to put ecosystem around these women. And that's what I did, because I couldn't go to work anymore and be part of the problem when I could otherwise take all that energy and actually start to be the solution over here. And so prioritizing getting capital, systemically moving capital to female-founded teams and bringing ecosystem to female-founded teams is now what I've been doing for the last 7 years.
Naseem, we've had this conversation before about about the thesis of tomorrow, right? Like a lot of even impact investing in venture capital, it rewards extraction and exploitation. And often I've heard multiple times, regeneration is expensive though. And I'm like, well, it's actually not expensive, it's moral. And the traditional legacy model is just funding extraction and exploitation, and it masks it or looks at it as profit and efficiency, but it's not, it's just band-aiding. So how, and even in the work that you do in closing the funding gap, you know, what are some ways that you see the thesis of tomorrow going? Like, how can we actually reshape what venture capital looks like or is structured, or is it not venture capital? Is it something else? You know, how do you see this going and moving from what's the traditional VC model?
How much time do we have? There's a couple of things, right? This is again going to come back a little bit to bias. There's some language problems. So when we say impact investing, in this room, we understand what that means, and it spins positive. It actually carries a fairly negative connotation out in the wild in some ways, because it gets characterized as concessionary returns, meaning that we're willing to forego returns for the sake of impact, and we're willing to forego the capital uplift for the sake of saving the world. And that's not what we're doing. We have to be able to talk about financial returns and doing good at the same time. These things should be able to coexist. And and we have to start talking about it that way. And especially with regeneration, it has that same characteristic to it where we're giving up capital returns for the sake of sustainability, and we're not, right? And so the way we need to talk about everything has to be in performance. And what a lot of companies are doing is that they are looking for more efficient supply chains. And the way to get to more efficient supply chains is to have them be sustainable and is to have them be more regenerative. And so they're not having to trade out returns. It is just about better throughput. And so we have to talk about it that way and not lead with sustainability, but lead with performance and have it be by way of sustainability. And I think it's the order in which we have the conversation that's going to change how fast we get there. And we put ourselves in a bit of a corner by leading with some, we haven't, but the politics have gotten ahead of us. And if we recast the story, we're going to be able to achieve the goals we want, but we have to lead with money, right? Because the world works on money. We're seeing this happen in live action right now. We have to play the game we're in before we can play the game we want. And that's what I want us to do. I talk to female founders about this all the time also, because as women, it's part of our feminine skill set. We lead with empathy, right? We understand pain differently. And so we're out trying to solve for pain. And I meet female founders all the time that will be 5 pages into their pitch deck, and all I've heard is pain. And I'm 5 pages in and I don't know how much it's worth. And I will stop them and say, you got to tell me how much it's worth. I need money on the first page, friend. And we have to recast the pitch deck to start with the money. And so we need to do that here as well, because we know how much it's worth. We can calculate the outcome. And if we tell the story with money, we're going to be able to get there. And I think we need to do that with everything, because we're going to get to the outcome faster if we talk the way the system talks right now. And then once we've achieved the goal, we can go burn it down and build it again. But we're not going to be able to get there otherwise. I have 2 thoughts on this. I want everyone to find small ways to change the bias paradigm every single day. And I'll give you an example. Because my husband laughs at me because I do it all the time. I was walking through a Target 6 months ago, and I'm walking through the kids aisle. The kids aisle drives me crazy, by the way. I was walking through the kids aisle. I know, we're going to go fast. I'm sorry. I was walking through the kids aisle, and they had the kids couches. There was a pink one, and there was a blue one. And the girl one, the pink one, had a pillow on it that said love and hope. And the blue one had a pillow on it that said have an adventure. And I stood in front of it and I shook my head and I was like, I'm so angry. And my husband was like, oh God, what is she gonna do? And I walked up and I switched the pillows. And I was like, God, that's so much better. Like, let's not overdo the gender bias, please, Target. And I switched the pillows. What does that do? It completely changes the conscious and unconscious bias of those 2 couches, instantly. It's a small paradigm shift in Target. Now, every other person who walks by those couches is gonna have a different reaction to those 2 couches. You can do those little things every single day. Anything you see, you can just change the paradigm of what those things do. And I find it everywhere. You can do it everywhere, every single day. The second thing, I have a strong, firm belief that we could change the world in 1 generation. And I'll tell you why. I have a 6-year-old little boy. He's wonderful and he's rowdy. I do a lot of investing in women's health. I talk about women's body parts all day long. Vulvas, all the things, right? My son knows these words. He's going to walk into 1st grade in the fall and he's going to say vulva. And I'm going to get a phone call from his 1st grade teacher. Mrs. Sayani, he said this word. I'm going to say, that's great. He knows what it is, right? Also in my house, the work is the work. There's dishes, there's laundry, there's all trash to take out. My husband and I just do the work. Somebody does the cooking, somebody does the trash, somebody does the laundry. It's not gendered work. We just do the work. My son helps whoever's doing the work with the work. For him, it's not gendered. If all of us did that in our houses, our children would grow up with a completely different baseline. We could all do that in our houses, and our children would grow up with a different baseline. 1 generation.
Yeah.